This coming Sunday is the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Our Gospel is from Matthew's account, chapter 18, verses 21 to 35. Let's take a listen. Peter approached Jesus and asked him, "Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive? As many as 7 times?" Jesus answered, "I say to you, not 7 times, but 77 times. That is why the kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who decided to settle accounts with his servants. When he began the accounting, a debtor was brought before him who owed him a huge amount. Since he had no way of paying it back, his master ordered him to be sold, along with his wife, his children, and all his property, in payment of the debt. At that the servant fell down, did him homage, and said, 'Be patient with me, and I will pay you back in full.' Moved with compassion, the master of that servant let him go and forgave him the loan. When that servant had left, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him a much smaller amount. He seized him and started to choke him, demanding, 'Pay back what you owe.' Falling to his knees, his fellow servant begged him, 'Be patient with me, and I will pay you back.' But he refused. Instead, he had the fellow servant put in prison until he paid back the debt. Now, when his fellow servants saw what had happened, they were deeply disturbed, and went to their master and reported the whole affair. His master summoned him and said to him, 'You wicked servant, I forgave you your entire debt because you begged me to. Should you not have had pity on your fellow servant as I had pity on you?' Then in anger, his master handed him over to the torturers until he should pay back the whole debt. So will my heavenly Father do to you, unless each of you forgives your brother from your heart." The question of forgiveness is a timeless question. It's on the lips of Peter. "Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive?" He could have easily asked this question in any century, right down to the present day. Jesus' response is that there must be an endless supply of forgiveness. He then tells them a parable wherein there is a lack of forgiveness on the part of someone who had been forgiven much. Rather than pass on that forgiveness, he inflicts a harsh punishment. The master is angry that this simple act of passing on forgiveness to someone you realize has done something against you ought to be done. You have been forgiven, and you ought to forgive. The reality is that all of us have been forgiven by our Heavenly Father. He takes the initiative out of love to forgive each of us. We then, in imitation of the Father's action, in imitation of the Father's love, are called to pass on that forgiveness. We all make mistakes. I can lose patience with someone when they don't do what they are supposed to do, when they don't get something right, when they don't carry their weight with their responsibilities, whether that be at work, in a family, or among friends. It is good to stop and realize that at times I am that person, the one who doesn't get it right, makes the mistake, doesn't do what I'm supposed to do. And as I come to acknowledge this fact, as well as the fact that I have been forgiven, let this mindfulness, this awareness, help me to pass on forgiveness to others. The next time I get impatient or angry with someone because they did not do what they were supposed to do, may I stop and think of the last time I did not do what I was supposed to do. It doesn't make not doing what I was supposed to do acceptable. It just gives me perspective and the opportunity to treat this person with compassion and extend forgiveness. There are some incredibly amazing stories of forgiveness that come to mind. I often think of Pope John Paul II, St. John Paul II, going to the prison cell of the person who attempted to assassinate him to extend forgiveness. Truly incredible. Most often, however, in each of our daily lives, there are the more ordinary moments of forgiveness. These too are important. Our own inability to engage in those small acts of forgiveness means that we're not passing on the kind of forgiveness we have already received. It points out the need to keep our eye on Christ, who even from the cross extends a word of forgiveness to the repentant thief who was crucified with him. Let this important gospel about forgiveness fill your week. For now, God bless. See you in church.